Snap! It's time for GGSP. I'm Jem.
And I'm Rad. Snap indeed, because today we're snapping them all. Coming up, our review of the new Pokémon Snap. Plus, the story behind Nintendo's odd robot toy, R.O.B.
Affirmative! R.O.B, the robotic operating bunny. What a noob he was.
You knew him? Wait, Darren, you're a robotic buddy too, you know.
He's more a ruthless data analyzing robot.
A ruthless data analyzing director, thank you. And action!
Well, before we get into snapping some adorable Pokemon pics, what other games have you been checking out this week, Rad?
Well, I've been playing a mobile game called Fantasian, and it's actually from some of the creators of the Final Fantasy series. Fantasian has a similar mix of story and flair for mystery, with quite detailed and frequent cutscenes. The parts you actually play are in cute diorama-type environments where you run around and take on turn-based battles. The fights felt a little basic, with the game focusing more on story than gameplay. While I can appreciate how fleshed out of a game this is, it's just not for me.
I mean, at least it looks pretty. Anyway, onto some gaming news, and I heard that apparently there is a new PlayStation 5 in the works.
What? Already? It's been out for like 2 minutes.
Well, when I say new, I mean foundries that make computer chips for the PS5 are gearing up to produce a new redesigned chip in the second half of next year. Apparently, this is being done to help Sony produce more consoles, as they and many other companies around the world are currently dealing with a semiconductor shortage. It likely won't lead to a different look for the consoles or any difference in performance, but it should make it easier to find a PS5 at the shops.
Well, anything that helps people get their hands on a console sounds like good news to me. And speaking of good news, the Australian government has announced a big tax break for game developers. Taxes may sound boring, but game companies that spend over $500,000 a year making games will essentially be able to get a 30% refund in their tax return. This should help attract more game developers and grow the local games industry a lot. Which is great news for any GGS peeps out there hoping to get a job making games one day.
Or if you're hoping to become a professional Tetris player one day, you should check this out. Players have discovered a new technique for getting high scores on the NES version of Tetris. It's known as rolling and works by players rapidly tapping the back of the controller in a rolling motion while one finger sits on the D-pad, enabling super rapid D-pad taps. High scores have been getting smashed ever since the technique was discovered.
Okay, you two, we better roll on to the review. Those Pokemon aren't going to take pictures of themselves, you know. There are no Pokemon selfies. Now, snap to it.
Brad, what are you doing? We have to do the review.
Oh, well, I was thinking that if I put on this Grookey disguise, the other Pokemon will think that I'm one of them and I'll be able to get closer for a better photo. You know, blend in.
Alert! Alert! Wild Pokemon in the spawn point studio! Evacuate immediately!
No, Darren, it's me! I'm Rad!
Oh, Rad! You almost frazzled my circuits. I thought perhaps someone had pushed the quantum entangler and turned you into a Pokemon.
It can do that?
Let's not find out. It's time for new Pokémon Snap. It's been over 20 years since the last Pokémon Snap, and like most GGS peeps, I never played it.
Yeah, me neither. But by all accounts, new Pokémon Snap follows the same footsteps. You hop in a little pod, travel along a set track, and snap some photos of Pokémon. All in the name of science.
Welcome back.
At the end of your trip, you show your photos to the professor, and he'll give you a rating depending on how useful it is for research. The perfect Poké photo should have your subject nice and big in the center of frame, facing the camera, of course.
Yeah, at first I was a bit disappointed that there's not more room for artistic flair. I was really looking forward to flexing my photographic skills and getting some beautiful wildlife shots. The pod feels like it drives too fast, while moving the camera feels too slow. So it's very tricky to get the shot you're after. And you can only submit one photo of each Pokémon species each run, so the pressure is on. But after a while, I found myself really getting into the groove, craving that elusive, perfect Pokémon picky.
It helps that things change with multiple runs too. You can level up areas by taking high-scoring photos, which makes the resident Pokémon feel more comfortable and exhibit different behaviours.
Gem, this was so exciting to me. Dare I say I was giddy with excitement. I was squealing in delight when I saw a new Pokémon or saw one do something different. There is a lot that stays the same, which can get tedious at times. But there's enough new locations, tools, and behaviors to keep it interesting. As you progress, you'll also unlock new areas and tools, like fruit you can throw to entice the little fellas to pose for the camera. Or, you know, to bonk them on the head.
Yeah.
Hey, Tweety. I'm so sorry.
There's also a bit of a story about mysterious glowing Pokémon, but I could have done without it. Now, normally, I love me a bit of narrative motivation, but if anything, it felt like it got in the way of what I came here to do, take in zoomed-in pictures of Pokémon.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of nice to feel like the very important photos that I'm taking are contributing to something equally important. But really, I'm just here to snap the Pokémon.
All right, on to the next site.
The story parts also feel pretty clunky, but not as clunky as the menu controls. This is on console. Why have a cursor instead of just selecting the next photo? It's just so annoying!
Hey, what I found annoying was how unpredictable the photo rating feels. You can auto-pick which photos to submit, but I'd often look at them and think, why did it auto-pick that one? Surely this other one is better. But you can only choose one, so I will never ever know.
Yeah, I know that they've told me what makes a high-scoring photo, but it still feels a bit random, and some categories seem to matter more than others. This was a bit disappointing. But if you take enough photos, you will eventually reach Diamond, the highest rating.
That is true, but I'm not sure how many more photos I'll be taking. I just didn't feel thrilled by my collection, and it was too repetitive for me. Sure, you get different areas, but essentially it's all the same. I had my fun, and it was fun, and now I'm done. So I'm giving new Pokémon Snap 3 out of 5 rubber chickens.
You know what, Gem? This one surprised me. After the first round, I thought I was gonna get bored pretty quickly, but the more I played, the more thrilling I found it. It tickled the playful, awestruck side of me. So I'm giving new Pokémon Snap 4.5 out of 5 rubber chickens. Pichu, what are you doing? Pichu, turn around!
Oh, it's time again to open up the great book of gaming's past and find out the origin stories behind some classic characters. This week, it's Nintendo's robotic operating buddy, aka R.O.B. This little robot is more than just a game character. He actually helped save the games industry. Is there anything us robots can't do? Anyway, to explain where R.O.B came from, we need to look back to the early 80s.
Video games are the latest craze to sweep the country and most of the world, too.
This was when the young, growing video games industry suffered a horrendous crash, due largely to a wave of poor quality games and consoles, combined with the rise of personal computers. People began to think this gaming thing was maybe just a fad all along. Stores no longer wanted to stock anything to do with gaming after getting stuck with mountains of near worthless consoles and game cartridges no one wanted. Atari even infamously ended up sending truckfuls of games and hardware to the tip. Such a waste. But Nintendo had just launched its first video game console in Japan called the Famicom, which of course it wanted to sell in the rest of the world. But how do you sell a video game console when no one wants to buy a video game console? Well, Nintendo had a plan, and that plan was R.O.B the Robot. Nintendo changed the name to the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, and design set out to include a ROB with every console it sold in America. This was done to help make the NES seem like more of a toy than a video game machine, as the toy market was still strong. And with ROB, you could own your very own interactive robot friend. So, I'm sure you're probably wondering, what did ROB actually do? Well, not much. There was only ever 2 official games that ROB could play: Gyromite and Stack Up. In Stack Up, players would jump on an in-game digital controller to give ROB inputs, which were transmitted into ROB's eyes through green flashes on your TV. The aim was for ROB to grab coloured discs and stack them in a specific order. But ROB and the game had no way of knowing if you'd actually done it correctly, so it was an honour-based scoring system. Hardly thrilling game design. In Gyromite, players used ROB to help guide Professor Gyro to collect dynamite. Red and blue pipes were in the way, however, and players could call on ROB to move them. To do this, ROB had to pick up a gyro disc, place it in a spinner to get it spinning, and then place it on either a red or blue button to move the matching coloured pipes. All this actually did, though, was press either the A or B button on a second controller, which was held in a special dock. Not only is this a lot of work to go through just to push a button, but ROB was a very slow robot, so each button press could easily take over a minute to perform. This made the game frustrating and frankly easier to play without ROB. Told you he was a noob. So, in the end, ROB proved to be a rather unfun robotic friend. But it did the job of convincing shops to stock the NES. Because just look at him! Isn't he adorable? The marketing worked, and once people had the NES in their homes, word of mouth began to spread about some of the great games you could play, like Super Mario Brothers. Before too long, ROB was no longer bundled with every NES, and Mario was instead. Since then, ROB has gone on to cameo in quite a few games, such as Mario Kart DS, and most notably, in several Super Smash Bros. Games. And in 2014, an independent developer even made their own NES cartridge, called 8-Bit Christmas, which made ROB dance to Christmas tunes. Boogie down, ROB! Who knows where the games industry would be if it weren't for ROB? The NES may never have been sold in America. Mario and Nintendo may never have become such gaming icons, which means even the Pokémon might never have existed. Oh, can you imagine? So, is it fair to say ROB saved the entire gaming industry? Well, I'll leave that for you to decide. But ROB, I salute you for your service to robot and gamerkind. Where was I? That's a story worth telling.
Okay, Rad, it's AskSP time. Once again, did you bring your very best answer pants?
Oh, no, sorry. My very best answer pants are actually at the dry cleaners at the moment. You see, I had a little soup spilling situation. But I do have my second best answer pants.
Well, I guess they will have to do. So let's jump into our first video, and this one comes to us from Jarell.
GGSP, I was wondering, does main assembly come out on PS4? And have they released any updates on Minecraft on the PS4? And Darren, can you please do these?
Oh, affirmative! Hungry for dollars. Starstruck. Wink. Bowling ball. Woo!
Thank you.
Thanks, Jarell. If you're wondering about whether main assembly will come to PS4, I'm not sure. Let's ask Darren.
Being a robot building game, surely he'd know, right?
Greetings, you've reached Darren.
Hello, Darren. It's Rad and Jem here at the AskSP desk. We were wondering if you know if main assembly is going to come out on PS4.
Well, at the moment, you can only play main assembly on PC. and I haven't heard of any plans to bring it to the PS4 at this stage. But if you're interested in games like Main Assembly, you could try playing something like the Spaceflight Sim Kerbal Space Program, or even the Space Survival Crafting of Astroneer, which are both available on PS4.
Oh yeah, I guess they are kind of similar. Well, thanks for the recommendos, Darren. Bye!
Oh, you're most welcome. Cheerio!
Bye-bye. As for whether there have been any Minecraft updates for the PS4, well, aside from small fixes and improvements and things that happen pretty regularly, there were updates late last year that added support for servers and realms for PlayStation, as well as support for PSVR if that's something you have.
And I believe the next major Minecraft update, Caves and Cliffs, will come to Bedrock editions, including PS4. That should bring with it things like new mobs, new items and building materials, new cave biome features, and things like that.
But apparently the update will now be split into 2 installments, with some features set to arrive around the middle of this year, and the remaining more complex features rolling out at the end of the year.
Leaving us with a bit of a Caves and Cliffs hangout, wouldn't you say?
I wouldn't, but clearly you would, and you know what? Good for you. Moving on now to another video, and this one comes to us from Claudia.
Hi GGSP, it's Claudia here. I have one question for you today. What age group is Roblox rated and is it safe? Bye. P.S. Brad and Jem, please do these. Brad, please do these.
How much?
And Jem, please do these.
Wow!
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Claudia. That's an interesting question you have about what age group Roblox is suitable for. But it's also a difficult one to give a definitive answer to, partly because Roblox isn't one single game. It's more of a digital platform for loads of user-made games of varying quality.
Yeah, and while the platform of Roblox itself appears to have an official classification of PG, the individual games themselves don't necessarily go through the same classification systems that other games outside of Roblox might. So the answer here is, it really depends. You should always check with your grown-ups about these kinds of decisions.
And to whether it is safe, well, obviously online safety is really, really important, particularly with social and chat features that are in Roblox. There are certain restrictions in place for players with profiles registered as being under 13 years of age. And Roblox has a guide for parents on its site, which includes info about safety features, in-game transactions, privacy, account, and friends list restrictions, plus other controls.
So again, this is one to ask your grown-ups to explore first. Maybe they could also have a bit of a play of the Roblox games you're interested in with you to get a better idea of what you want to play. Perhaps they'll end up becoming gamers themselves, if they aren't already.
Indeedy. And on that note, we are out of time for this week. If you've got a question you'd like to see us tackle here at the AskSP desk, go here and send it in. And of course, all of those vid-tastic video questions that are selected for the show will score a GGSP loot pack.
So, Rad, how many pairs of answer pants do you actually have?
3, but the third pair is for display purposes only. I'm even considering getting a 4th pair for emergencies.
That's amazing. Definitely send me the pictures. Well, GGS peeps, we're at the end of another show, but stick around for what we've got next week. It's back into the icy deep blue for our full review of Subnautica Below Zero. I'm so excited.
Yeah, that game looks rad.
Oh, negative! You're rad, rad!
Oh, Darren, you.
I'm pretty rad too, right?
Negative, Gem. You're a gem.
Oh, stop it, you. Until next time, may all your games be good ones. Gem out.
Brad out.
Darren out.